drive. Tatum the finish. It is banner 18. The mission commanded is mission accomplished.
What's up, everyone? This is Noa Dalzell, and I'm here with another episode of You Got Boston. We have a very professional live shot version of You Got Boston today here at TD Garden after the Celtics' best win so far. I mean, we only have two to pick from, but 125-105 win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I think many people expect are to be the best team in the Eastern Conference, if not one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And they're not at full strength. No Max Strus, no Sam Merrill. Donovan Mitchell was clearly dealing with a hamstring injury that had him on the injury report up until game time. But however you want to look at this, this was a massive win for a team that has started the year 0-3, and you know, we have all this dialogue around tanking and is this team just headed for the lottery, and now here we are a couple of days later, and I think people feel pretty differently about that. So as I said from the beginning, what this show is going to be is a quick 20-minute recap after every single game about the positive takeaways from that game. And it was a little bit hard to do it after Detroit when they started 0-3, and I know some of you guys were clowning me in the comments, but I'm committed to doing this all year long, and I wasn't going to skip tonight, even though we have a lot of content on the channel, which you should check out, because this was a really big time win, and there were a lot of encouraging things about the Celtics' performance. So the first thing I'll say is the Cleveland Cavaliers started this game 9 of 11 from 3, and even still, the Celtics were right in it, if not leading, throughout that entire first half. So it is so demoralizing for a team to come out and play well enough to take a double-digit lead and just not be able to break away because Donovan Mitchell starts the game 5 of 5 from 3, hitting some crazy ones. And they just kept going at it, and they just knew, and this is what Joe Mazzulla says time and again, is the numbers are going to average out ultimately, and they finished this game much closer to average, but they took a 15-point lead into the half. And so that was super impressive that you're able to overcome such a hot shooting start from the Cavs, despite playing really good defense and crashing the glass and running a good offense, and they were still able to build a double-digit lead. And there's a couple people that I'm going to attribute some of the credit to today. First big takeaway, I said this before and I'll say it again, this team will go as Neemias Queta goes. That's a scary proposition because he's ultimately somebody that was not in the NBA rotation at any point really in his career and was not really playing much last year. And here he is now, not just playing a critical role in the defensive end, but he has to be their primary rebounder. He has to be a focal point of the offense. I mean, they're not hiding him offensively. He's involved in every action, setting screens, handoffs. Like, he's doing a lot. And so it's a tall task. And in this game, he absolutely lived up to it against one of the better front courts in the NBA in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. He finishes with 13 rebounds and 10 points. And for him to be able to get 13 rebounds on a night like this where he's banging up against some really good bigs, and the rebounds are never going to capture just how big his role is when it comes to boxing out, because it's, ensuring that his guy doesn't get the board. It's deflections. It's battling for loose balls. I thought it was a 10 out of 10 effort for him today, and it's not going to be a perfect season for him. If he was the perfect center, he wouldn't be on a minimum contract. He wouldn't have been in the G League for as long as he was. He wouldn't have been a two-way player. But right now, he is what they have, and the whole coaching staff, everybody is committed to making him reach his potential. And I think that we're starting to see the fruits of that commitment and of that labor. And so big time performance by Neemias Queta today, who is going to continue to be a big topic on this channel and a big topic just in general as we discuss how the Celtics are faring throughout the year. The second guy I want to give a shout out to is Jaylen Brown, who I maintain that I think he's one of the most scrutinized players on this team and maybe even in the NBA, regardless of whether that's on the court things or off the court things. Jaylen has done a very good job this season, and it hasn't always felt that way because they started 0-3, and that Knicks game he struggled with 7 turnovers, and anytime he has a high turnover game, I think it brings out the worst in people as they reflect on him, because it makes you think about, Jaylen Brown in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals versus Miami and like the loose ball turnovers and things like that. But for the most part, I think he's had good ball control this season, but above that, he is shouldering the offensive load without doing too much. The assist numbers are not they're not going to jump off the stat sheet, but just watching him play, it is clear that he is not just putting his head down and saying, I'm going to go score, but he is making sure to get his teammates involved. I always, when I watch these games, because I usually watch the game, obviously live at the arena, I'm watching for body language, I'm watching for how guys are connecting with one another, and then I go home and I watch the game more for the X's and O's. So sitting here in the arena just now, I can just say he is so locked in to his teammates, to uplifting guys who are struggling. Every time he makes a pass as a playmaker, he is so almost seemingly more excited when he gets an assist than when he gets a basket. And so that's what they're going to need from him. He can probably get you 35 on any given night if he just, puts his head down and tries to go get those points, but that's not his objective. He wants to make this team as good as possible, and I thought one of the best post-game press conferences that he's given in my time covering him came after that first win against the Pelicans, which you can check out in full on the channel, but he's very much committed to this idea that he is going to be a big part of guys' growth. And he's acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of players in the current rotation that have never been in an NBA rotation before, and then that's going to be an adjustment. And so he puts up 30 points today on 12 of 20 shooting. He has been uber efficient from three-point range, shooting about 50% from three on the season. And I don't know if that's going to hold because it's a small sample, but the leadership, the intangibles, the buy-in, it's all there from a guy who could be frustrated because this is a frustrating situation. They lost a ton of talent in the offseason. He wants to contend for a championship every season. And there's a world out there where Jaylen Brown's like, so Tatum goes down and I'm just left here without any established front court players and all of that. And that's not the world that we live in. He's completely bought into bringing out the best of these guys. And at the same time, he's shouldering heavier responsibilities on both ends of the floor. Third big takeaway, and another guy that deserves a massive shout out after this win, is Josh Minott, who is just proven to be like maybe their solution alongside Queta in that starting lineup. It's been 2 games now that he started. Obviously, they're 2-0 with him in the starting lineup, and I won't give him all the credit for it, but they have been a better team when he's been on the floor. He was a plus 42 in that Pelicans win. Tonight, massive rebounding performance, and he kind of joked after the game that a lot of it is about just being in the right spot, playing really hard, and he's just relishing this opportunity right now that he has. Josh doesn't think that he's a bad defender. He told us this after the Pelicans win, that he feels like he kind of got a bad rap as a defender that he maybe doesn't even really deserve, and that is something that just the fans started saying about him. I think there were some faults to his defense in previous stops, but so far for the Celtics team, he's played really good defense. And so he's 22 years old. He's on a minimum deal. Like, all of these guys, like, there's a reason why they're in the situation that they're in. They're not going to give you perfect basketball night in and night out, and honestly, nobody is going to. But right now, there's something really good brewing between him and Queta in the front court. And so I really like that combination, and I like the energy and the motor and the hustle with which he plays. And honestly, the joy. Like, I was waiting to go into the tunnel after the game ended, and Josh was running through, and you could just see like the adrenaline running through him as he was high-fiving the fans on his way out. So it's a lot of fun to watch a guy like that that's been bursting at the seams for an NBA opportunity get the chance to be a major contributor for a team that has expectations and goals and aspirations. So those are the 3 guys that get a shout out from me today. I will also just briefly mention Pritchard and White continue to struggle from 3, and that's going to change. These are 2 guys that are proven shooters. Payton, I think, was 2 of 7 in this game. Derek was 5 of 20 from the field. So massive shooting struggles for them both, yet I still think they're contributing to winning and contributing to a lot of good things happening on both ends of the floor. And Pritchard puts up 10 points and 10 assists in this game. And if he can be a guy that is giving you 8-9 assists a night, that is huge for this offense, because they do need him to be more of a playmaker rather than just somebody that checks into the game and is kind of a microwave scorer, which is the role that at times he had last year. So all that's to say, they're still a below 500 team. It's just 1 game. It happens all the time where, better teams come in, and I do feel like they played with their food a little bit, the Cavs. They didn't have perfect intensity, perfect buy-in when they started that game, but they came back in the 4th, and the Celtics held them off pretty well. Quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks is a fun and simple experience where you can select your favorite players. For example, I really like watching Josh Allen play. I can decide if I want to do more or less than 270 pass yards or whatever the player call-out projections are each week. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you should cash in. PrizePicks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and accurate, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
And then the one other thing that I wanted to mention is Sam Hauser, who is a player that in general kind of flies under the radar because he doesn't, he does a couple things really well, and that's what he does, and that's what he's been doing since he got to Boston. But Hauser was 7 of 13 from 3 in this game. He's playing limited minutes. He's coming off the bench, but he has been the most consistent shooter on this team so far through 5 games, and is honestly the most consistent shooter on the roster because, as I mentioned, I feel like 3 times a week he's never shot below 40% from 3 in a single season. So Sam Hauser, the stroke is there. He's had some good shooting games so far this year, and I mentioned this in the last You Got Boston episode, but so is the defense. The defense for Sam Hauser has been one of my most favorite things to watch, just how much he's evolved as a player and how much teams still are not grasping the fact that this guy is a good defender. Like, he just is. And so you saw that again tonight. He came up big on both ends of the floor, and he's going to continue to play a crucial role for the Celtics team moving forward. So how good is this team now? This is the 1-week anniversary of opening night. I'm sitting in the same building where we saw the Celtics, mess up a couple of last-second plays and lose to the 76ers. We're going to be back in Philadelphia in 2 days, so we'll get a better sense of where they're at, 9 days after opening night then. They're below a 500 team right now, but I do think that there were a lot of overreactions to the first couple losses here when they started 0-3 and everybody's starting to talk about draft prospects and all of that. So I understand there's a case to be made that maybe tanking and getting a young prospect is better for this team long term. But you have a team of competitors, a coaching staff full of competitors in that locker room, and they're going to fight tooth and nail for every single win this season. And I still think this is a 45-win team. That was my prediction entering the year. It obviously looked a little shaky there when they were 0-3, but these last 2 wins do convince me that there is something there. And the schedule does not get any easier. Friday night in Philadelphia, second night of a back-to-back back at home against the Houston Rockets, which are going to pose some size problems undoubtedly as well. But that's it for now. You Got Boston live from TD Garden. Do go and check out our previous You Got Boston episode, a very special episode where we had Jason Tatum, none other Jason Tatum, on the show at the YMCA here in Chinatown. I spoke with him about a whole bunch of things, so if you missed that episode, go watch that right now. The most exciting guest that we've had in the young history of You Got Boston. So that's it for now. I'm Noa Dalzell, and we'll have more coverage coming from the road in Philadelphia.